Name is Juneteenth. It's 19th. And my niece, all the way from Atlanta, Danisha, the organizer, let's not forget that, because we got to have peoples in their proper place. She called me and she said, let's do this. I said, girl, come on. I was ignorant of it. I didn't really know nothing about it. 62 years old in July. But I just thank God that I called some peoples. I called the pastor. He didn't turn me down. I called Pastor Whitehurst. He didn't turn me down. And I'm just glad to have each and every one out here. Because without you guys, it wouldn't be possible. And I know it's another company that's making a difference. Jamal Frazier, they doing something in Dothan tomorrow. So let's try to support them. Here go Pastor Whitehurst.
Amen. God bless you. I'm going to say a little bit. I don't think I need any help from AD over there, Andrew. He know a lot of history. But I want to say a little bit just about the occasion. This day, Juneteenth, we celebrated because on one day, there were some thieves, there were some murderers, and there were some folks who decided that we were worth nothing than the scum of the earth, and they decided that they wanted to treat black people like worms. And so they came over to Africa and they chained us and they threw us into the bottom of slave ships and they raped us and they brutalized us. That's what they did to us, preacher, because they wanted to treat us as if we were worms, as if we slithered on the ground. And so they pressed us to the ground and they haven't stopped oppressing us since then. And so they put us on those slave ships, and as that ship began to come to the land that we call America, they made a mistake, Brother Bolden, because they didn't understand that the bodies that they were throwing over into the roaring, glistening ocean had a treasure on the inside of them. A treasure that's still shining 400 years later, a treasure inside of earthen vessels. Imagine the gifts that they threw away when they threw away our fathers' father, and our mother's mother. They threw us away because they didn't want the gift to come out of our minds and to come out of our hearts. But we had babies that's going to grow up, and those gifts are getting ready to come forth anyway. We're living on the cusp right now of a time that is the best time in your life, because finally America is recognizing that black is beautiful. America is recognizing that black is valuable. But let me tell you something, we don't need America to recognize that we're beautiful. We've known for a long time that we're beautiful. And the treasure that shines in our ancestors as they paved the trail that hurricanes would follow for years, that treasure deep in their core is the treasure that has the prose of Maya Angelou, that says no matter how far down you press us like worms, like dust we'll still rise. And so now they're killing our babies in the street. The same thieves, the same murderers, the same white robbers and pirates are killing our babies in the streets with their badges and with their guns, the same badges and guns that they use to chain us and bring us over here. But we came to serve notice to America that we didn't give you permission to steal the breath of our children, just like we didn't give you permission to steal our birthright. And so no matter what you do to us, no matter what you say about us, no matter how far down you try to push us into the ground like worms, like dust, we'll still rise. And so now it is up to us to rise and rise to the occasion. And I heard the preacher say, we've got issues right here in ASHFORD, Alabama. And I am a witness to that, because I've had to stand toe-to-toe in ASHFORD, Alabama, with a superintendent who didn't want to enroll black boys and girls that year. We've had to go toe-to-toe with some teachers in ASHFORD, Alabama, who instead of teaching our children and lifting our children up, keep pressing on our children and tearing our children down. And it's time for us now to rise to the occasion. We got to rise to the occasion and make sure that we show up to vote in November. Because somebody died for us and somebody bled for us to have the right to vote. And so we got to show up and we got to take back our inheritance. It's not enough for us just to say we're going to take back the block. But we've got to build the block and we've got to develop the block. And we got to develop these minds that are going to take care and tend to the block. We got to serve the church, but we've got to serve the hood too. And so now we've got to rise. We got to rise as we move forward to make sure that these teachers don't go back in this schoolhouse. We got to rise up and get behind Al Sharpton as we go back to Washington in August to march, a march on Washington. Dr. King went to Washington one time, and when Dr. King marched on Washington, Dr. King told them that we believe that the vaults of justice aren't bankrupt. Dr. King told them that if something isn't done in a hurry, the whole world is doomed. Dr. King told them that we couldn't get back to business as usual, but something had to be done in America. And we've given them 400 years to get things right with black folks in America. And so this time I'm encouraging my mentor, my hero, Al Sharpton. When we go back to Washington this time, we're not going to Washington to ask them to cut us a check. But somebody died for America to be our inheritance. They have misused and abused the funds, fraud, waste, and abuse. And so this time we're asking them, hand over our checkbook. And we're going to vote for Joe Biden as the fiduciary responsibility in November. We're not giving our inheritance to Joe either. But our ancestors died for this. It's their blood and their backs and their shoulders that we stand on. And so we're going to Washington. Everybody in Ashford ought to be getting ready. We're bringing the buses in. We're going to follow Al Sharpton, and we're going to Washington because we got to demand justice. They got to pay for what they've done. Tamir Rice, Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, Breonna. Y'all know the names. Alton Sterling. Y'all know the names. Rashad Brooks. Every tear that Eric Gardner's mother had to shed, they've got to pay for it. Every single tear that each one of these mothers had to shed, they've got to pay for it. And we got to stick together, like my dear sister said, and we're not going home until they pay for it. We're getting ready to go to Washington, D.C. so we can march. My daughters are getting older now, and they've been helping me out a little bit with research. And I want to tell y'all just about one more mistake that dirty devil, the white man, made back then. They looked at us as worms, but they should have been seeing us as something like caterpillars. Because every time they pressed us to the ground, we grew legs anyway, and we kept right on moving. Yes, they should have been seeing us as caterpillars, preacher. Yes, sir. While they were looking at us and thinking we were the scum of the earth like worms. That's right. Because even though we haven't showed up to all of the business meetings, even though we haven't participated in government up to now, we've been in our cocoon, and God's been working it out for us. Because we look to the hills from whence cometh our help, and we know that our help comes from God. And so he sheltered us in the time of the storm. They thought we were worms, but we're something like caterpillars. Because we've been just working it out in the cocoon. And one day, justice comes for us, because the caterpillar breaks free one day. And so while we're celebrating the day that we got free from slavery, we know that we've been slaves hundreds of more years. And we got to cut a check to close the wealth gap. because they've been enslaving us. We got to cut a check to close the income gap and the STEM gap and make sure that our children have a future. And when we come out of this cocoon this time, we'll be like butterflies and we gonna fly. My daughter came to me because I have them doing research sometime, and my daughter said, "Daddy, have you ever wondered what happens to a butterfly when the storm comes?" I said, "Sure, tell me what happens to the butterfly when the storm comes." And she said, "Daddy, every raindrop that falls on that butterfly, the research says to that butterfly, it feels like a bowling ball being dropped on a man." And we want to let America know, yeah, every time you kill one of our babies, it hurts. In fact, it feels like a bowling ball being dropped on our heads. We couldn't communicate it until now, but that's what it feels like, Brother Bowden. It brings tears to our eyes and it makes us sad. That's this occasion. We want to be free from that. It feels like a bowling ball dropped on our heads. And so we're wondering, how is it that we continue to move anyhow? It's because, Daddy, she said to me, the butterfly, when God created the butterfly, God coated the butterfly's wings. And so every teardrop that falls on that butterfly, every raindrop that falls on that butterfly, the wings repel it. And that reminds me of why we got to celebrate Juneteenth. Because no matter what they put us through, we're not worms, we're more like caterpillars. And now we become butterflies. And when we put on the whole armor of God, we're going to stand against every wile of the devil. And God's